What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel at The Movie Optimist. I just got done watching the newest film, Final Destination Bloodlines. In this film, this young girl starts having these reoccurring nightmares every night where essentially she sees her grandmother back in the 1970s go on a date to this sky bar, if you will. It's essentially a restaurant at the top of a 400-foot building where there's a giant glass dance floor and everyone goes and has dinner and dances the night away. And while there, in the little girl's dream, she sees her grandmother and all of the people in the restaurant fall to their death when the glass floor gives out underneath them due to poor construction. She keeps having this dream over and over, but it doesn't make sense to her because on one hand, she doesn't even know her grandmother. She's never heard of this story before, so why would she be having the dream about it? And her grandmother's still alive, obviously, because she went on from that night to have kids, which then had kids who turned out to be the main character girl having these nightmares. So to try and make sense of these dreams that she's having, she seeks out her grandmother to try and find out what's going on. Upon finding her, she discovers that, yeah, that night, she herself had a premonition that that was going to happen, and when she eventually comes out of this dream sequence where she saw everyone and herself dying, she was able to warn everybody and get everybody out of there before the disaster could happen. However, in doing this, she may have saved everyone that night, but she cheated death and robbed it of its plans that night, and death would then go on for the next 40-something years, hunting every single person that avoided death that night and killing them in very grisly ways. However, the reason why this young girl that we're following, the main character, the reason why she is still alive along with the rest of her family is because death works from the oldest to the youngest. And the reason why this young girl that we're following is still alive is because her grandmother, who survived the events of that night, wound up locking herself away in a cabin in the middle of the woods, out of harm's way, avoiding death all this time. Therefore, the chain reaction for death to continue down the bloodline couldn't start until the grandmother died. However, when this young girl goes there to make sense of these dreams, she sets off a chain reaction of death coming after everybody else in the family, going from the oldest all the way down to the youngest with the main character. And now it's up to her to convince her family that she's not crazy, this is actually happening, and figure out how to break the chain and save her family, cheating death once more, just like her grandmother before her. Now that's all I'll say about the plot of this film because I don't want to spoil anything. But I will say this, I am not a huge fan of the Final Destination films. I watched maybe the first 2 or 3, and when I finally realized that nobody was safe in these films, there was no rooting for anybody because everybody eventually meets their demise. That's just not for me, and I'm not saying that those movies are bad. I'm not saying that movies where the hero meets their demise at the end aren't good. They're just not my cup of tea. When I go to a movie, I like the experience of seeing a triumphant person. I like seeing the hero succeed, or at least a hero sacrifice. Make it mean something. I don't like going through movies where I'm rooting for people to survive only to watch everyone die at the end, and then it's just like, to me personally, that's 2 hours of wasted time because it's just not satisfying for me. That happens a lot in especially slasher movies, like movies with Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers, where they always win in the end, and there are plenty of people that root for the bad guy, in this case, death in Final Destination, to win and take everybody out. It's just not my thing. So I never watched the 4th one, the 5th one, and I think that this is the 6th one, and I wasn't even gonna see it, but a bunch of people that I follow online that I really admire and look up to, like John Campea and a bunch of other people, talked about how at CinemaCon this past year, they put on a presentation for this movie and everyone was blown away at how fun it looked, how entertaining the kills looked, yada yada yada. Everyone was raving about it, so I was like, you know what, I haven't seen the last couple, let me give this one a chance. So I did. And I'll say this movie is definitely, in my opinion, far better than at least the ones that I've seen, whereas in the original Final Destination movies always took themselves really seriously, and it was like consistent terror and dread for the entire 2 hours where you just feel like you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people love that feeling. But for me, I like when there's some levity in the middle. I like when things are really tense. I feel like I'm holding my breath because of how on the edge of my seat I am. And then out of nowhere, something of levity happens where someone cracks a joke that makes me laugh. And it kind of pulls me out of the tension a little bit and then gets me ready to get right back into it with the next gruesome death scene. And I like that balance personally. There's a lot of humor in this movie, and not forced humor where they're just forcing jokes in there to make people laugh. Like, it feels earned from the characters delivering the moments of comedy. Things are set up and then have a payoff payoff that, again, feels earned, and it's really funny, and it lets you breathe for a little bit and kind of get to know the characters a little bit more. You get more of their personality when there's moments of tranquilness in between these awful deaths, and it gets you on board and it gets you to care about the characters more. I never cared about any of the other characters in the other Final Destination movies. They were always just people that were waiting to die, and I never really cared about any of them. And to a lot of people, no one cared because people just want to show up to watch people die in incredibly gruesome and inventive ways. But for me, I like to care about the characters that I'm watching for 2 hours, and this movie did a good job establishing them as a family. I cared about this entire family. I cared about all the drama that they had before the events of death trying to kill them took place. And it made me genuinely feel bad when people that I genuinely like kicked the bucket in really, really messed up ways. And for those of you who don't know, if you haven't seen a Final Destination movie before, the way that these movies play out is when death gets cheated at the beginning of the film because somebody has a premonition and then they avoid the thing that was supposed to kill them, he will go to extreme lengths to kill those people that avoided him in ways that are so insane but so fun to watch. And I'll give one example so that you understand what I mean by he'll go to extreme lengths. There's a scene where there's a garbage truck going down the side of the road and it's picking up trash cans off the road and kind of dumping it in the back of the bed of the garbage truck and then putting them back on the street. And while this is happening, there's a giant rake that is placed up against the side of a tree. Next to the tree where the rake is leaned up against, there's a guy blowing leaves off of his front lawn. And then next to him is a bunch of kids playing soccer on their front driveway. There's now a person jogging down the side of the street. And while they are jogging down the side of the street, a gust of wind blows the rake over. The rake then hits the guy blowing his leaves, causing him to turn and blow a bunch of leaves into the kids' faces that are playing soccer. Because a bunch of leaves just blew into that kid's face, they accidentally kicked the soccer ball into a passing jogger on the side of the road, hitting that jogger on the side of the head and causing them to fall sideways into the garbage pail as the garbage truck is picking up the garbage pail and dumping it into the back of the garbage bed. Therefore, that person that just got dumped into the back of that garbage bed gets crushed to death. Those are like the extremes that death goes to get people killed, where it's like these perfectly timed little moments that start a chain reaction that leads to somebody's death. And on that aspect in this movie, there's so many different inventive ways that people just eat it in this film. And if that's what you're after, if you're just going into this movie because you want to see really cool, inventive ways that people die, you're gonna get it. And on top of that, you're also gonna get really great characters. All of the characters in this film are really likable. Even the assholes have redeemable qualities about them here. And they spare no expenses on the deaths themselves. They are grotesque and violent, and I'm talking like you see faces get ripped in half and skulls split open and blood and guts and organs all over the place. They went full metal with the gore in this film. I don't remember it being this gory in the first two that I seen, the first Final Destination and the second one, but this one, there is Terrifier levels of gore here. So yeah, I laughed a lot, I was on the edge of my seat a lot, I squirmed a lot because of the deaths, and I really liked the characters. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I'm really glad that I checked it out because I previously wasn't going to because I am not a fan of this franchise. But as fun as I had, I will say this, I do not like the ending of this film, and that's not to say that the ending of this film is bad. It's just for me and my tastes and my personal preferences, I don't feel it ended in a satisfying way, and that might not affect you or anybody else that's going to go in to see this movie. So don't let that be a deterring factor. Just know that my one problem with it was the very end. But outside of that, this was a really fun, enjoyable movie with really inventive, creative kills. I would love to sit in the room where they write these kills out and just see what kind of process goes into thinking of this stuff. The standout kill in this movie takes place in a hospital scene. You'll know it when you see it. And as much as I didn't like the ending, it was still a wild ride. I'm gonna give this movie an 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth it if you're a horror fan, if you're a fan of this franchise. When I was walking out of the theater, there were clearly a bunch of die-hard Final Destination fans walking out in front of me because they had a bunch of shirts on from like the original movies, and they were talking about how those deaths compared to the other deaths in movies, and they were really jazzed up about it. So if you're a diehard fan of this franchise, you're probably going to love it. But yeah, that's my review for Final Destination Bloodlines. Anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you excited to see this film? Are you a fan of this franchise? Did my review give you a reason to go or not to go to the movies this weekend? I would love to talk about it. And as always guys, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you next time.